All right, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today titled Transition to the New Fastcase, also known as Transition to Fastcase 7. So if you are on this webinar, you are likely here for one of two reasons. Number one, you were accustomed to the old version of Fastcase, and you logged into, let's say, your Bar Association portal one day, and all of a sudden there's this new screen that you should be seeing on your screen currently. So I'm here to help you make that adjustment with ease. Before I get ahead of myself, my name is Ken, by the way. I am the West Coast Reference Attorney. I'm also joined today by Erin Page, who is head of all things reference and one of the smartest people I know when it comes to anything legal research. So she is also here to help with this webinar. Erin, say a quick hello, if you will.
Hi, everyone.
So before we get started, I always like to say before we explore the house, we have to do a little bit of housekeeping, i.e. announcements. So announcement number one, as much as I wish it did qualify for CLE credits, this webinar does not. But as usual, I promise you will still learn a lot. If you need CLE credits, we do offer up to 4 hours of free CLE credits and additional specialized legal research training by going to www.fastcase.com/webinars. So it's more fastcase.com/webinars. If you are accessing Fastcase via a bar association, all 4 of these 1-hour CLE webinars are available to you free of charge. If you do not access Fastcase via a bar association, please email support@fastcase.com and we will inquire about your eligibility for CLE credits. Now, the second announcement is that everyone is on mute because we have a lot of people in the room, so we cannot answer questions using live voices. This is also to prevent background noise. If you have a question, type it into the questions box. If you are having technical difficulties and cannot find the questions box, write down your question, shoot it to us later at support@fastcase.com. Now, speaking of technical issues, if you have issues with audio and or video, we are unable to troubleshoot those individual issues in real time because unfortunately I have very limited control over GoToWebinar. But what we are able to offer is if you have any disruption whatsoever with audio, number one, consider consulting your webinar confirmation email you should have received at the time you registered for the session. There is a dial-in option where you can do audio via your telephone, as I am doing currently. The other thing is if you are getting frustrated because audio and or video is not working, I encourage you simply leave the webinar. That is not because we do not want you here. That is because we will be sending out a fully perfected audio and video recording of this webinar within 24 to 48 hours after it has ended. So I encourage people, don't get frustrated because the point of these webinars is to make all things Fastcase a frustration-free experience. Now, the last announcement that I will make is the point of this webinar is to not fret. So I always really like to start kind of the substantive portion of the webinar and the last announcement with, do not fret. You have not lost access to the older version of Fastcase. So the last thing that I will allow anyone at Fastcase to do, I would legitimately start a coup, is just pull the rug out from all of you users that I adore. So what we have done is we have simply defaulted all of our users over to the new system because at some point in the distant future, we will retire the older version. So I always like to tell people when we're talking about the platform generally, as kind of that substantive starting point, how to transition between both versions of the platform. Now, I'm not actually going to click back and forth between the tabs. I'm just going to show it on your screen. So if you log into the system, so the common example is people log in, they're like, listen, Ken, I do not have time to learn this system today. I have a deadline. I need to get my research done. Where is the older version? So to do that, we want to click on this orange circle in the top right. So if you see where I'm pointing, there's an orange circle. It should contain your initials, or if your name is wrong in the system, we can fix that later. It should just generally contain letters. So orange circle, furthest top right, you click that circle, a drop-down menu will appear, and then you want to select back to Fastcase 6. So what this is going to do is it is going to open up a new tab with the older version of Fastcase. Now, the nice thing about it, and I guess for some a nice thing, and then for others I will make a disclaimer, is it's going to open up a new tab because it's encouraging people to go back and forth between the two versions. Now, one small caveat is if you are going back between the new version and the old version, the system is literally trained to, if I run a search in the new version with the old version open, it will also then run that search in the old version. So just keep that in mind. If you want to just do Fastcase 6, open it up at the new tab, simply close out the tab for the newer version and learn as you go. You will have access to both versions of the platform until, and I emphasize, until at least September of 2021. So take your time, get comfortable, attend this webinar, ask 10 questions. If you need more training, shoot us an email. We're happy to schedule another series of these webinars. So that concludes the start of the substance session and the end of my announcement.
I have an
Now,
announcement.
right away, go ahead, sorry.
Reminder announcement is, speaking of questions, you are welcome to ask questions during today's session. On your GoToWebinar pop-up, you'll see the questions button, and I or Ken will answer your questions during today's session, and we'll also follow up with the questions after today's session. So please, please feel free to ask those questions. All yours.
All right, perfect. Thank you for re-emphasizing the questions box. I would also slight add on that is if we do not get to your question during the session, expect a follow-up email with an answer to that question within 24 hours as well. So whenever we're talking about the new platform, I always like to get people comfortable with where things are located because you can't really do your research if you don't know where to find it. So right away, the first biggest difference people notice is that there is now only a singular search bar. So in Fastcase 6, in the older version, many of you were accustomed to, if I wanted to run a case law search, I clicked Advanced Case Law. I then clicked the type of search I wanted to run. If I wanted to run keywords, I would click that radio button. If I wanted to look up a citation, I would click that radio button. In the new system, the search bar is designed to recognize all types of searches. So an example would be, okay, well, if I wanted to look for, let's say, for example, I wanted to look for Marbury v. Madison. And in the old version, you would open up Advanced Case Law, you would click the radio button for citation search, and then you would enter your citation. In the new system, you simply go to the singular search bar and enter your citation. So if I type in 5 US 137, I can get taken to that case in one of two ways. The first way is you can simply click enter, or the orange button to the right of the search bar where I am pointing currently. So that's for all searches. To run a search, we enter our query or citation, we press enter, or we click the orange search kind of magnifying glass to the right of the search bar. Now, the other thing that we can do if you're looking up, so starting with, let's say, just a single document or a citation search, is the search bar now has a feature known as Type Ahead. So Type Ahead is designed to take citations or let's say titles of documents or search phrases, and it's attempting to guess the document you're looking for or the legal phrase you're searching for as you're typing. So let's assume that instead of having, so in this example, I typed in 5 US 137. I could get to it directly by pressing enter. I could also just select it from here at the top of that suggested document drop down. Now, as I mentioned, Type Ahead will also work for party names. So let's say that I was looking for, I did not know the reporter information for Marbury. I could simply just start typing MARB, and then it's suggesting a list of documents that contain MARB. As you continue typing, the list will become more specific. So those are the kind of one of two ways we can do a citation search. Now, other things we can do, so people are accustomed to natural language searches. So natural language searches is often a fancy way of saying, I enter my search into the search bar in a Google-esque fashion, or I have a statement, or I have a phrase in my brain that I want to look for. So you literally just stream of consciousness yourself right into the search bar. So I could say, penalty for arson would be an example. and then run my search. The system will recognize that and pull up documents talking about penalty for arson. Now, the system is also going to recognize the third type of search, which is going to be a search using keywords with or without Boolean operators. So a Boolean operator, oftentimes, and I always like to add this side commentary, as people often hear Boolean operators, and they will say, okay, well, Boolean operators seem to be overwhelming, myself included. I was like, I just want to run a natural language search. I do not want to have to learn Boolean operators. So what we've done is to make Boolean operators a little less overwhelming, as we have added a Boolean tip sheet. So a common example of a Boolean operator might be, let's say we were looking for arson and penalty. If I ran this search as is, it is going to find me legal documents based upon designated areas or within the repository as a whole that contain the word arson and the word penalty, so both words, but is not going to find me legal documents that just contain the word and. It's recognizing and as a connector. So as we get kind of in the more abstract or the more difficult variations of Boolean operators, we want to go to the tip sheet just to consult. So we find the tip sheet in the top right under the icon that looks like a question mark inside of a circle. Now, where I'm pointing to currently, the question mark inside of a circle, if you click it, it's going to not only give you this Boolean tip sheet at the top. So if I click it, this is the full universe of Boolean operators that you need to be familiar with, that it's good to be familiar with. I wouldn't say you need, because you can still conduct natural language searches within Fastcase in its entirety. So this is the full list. I will also add a shout out that if you do need one of those lovely free 1-hour CLE webinars that is available, is taught by Ms. Page herself, and it is on kind of an advanced session focusing just on Boolean operators. I promise you, after 60 minutes with Erin talking about Boolean operators, you will have some heightened level of proficiency, because she is a great teacher. Now, the other support options, since we're already talking about the help and support icon, question mark inside of a circle icon is kind of as I describe it when I'm using descriptive terms. We've got Boolean tip sheet at the top under Boolean tip. Below that, you have your change log. So think of a change log as being an update within an update. Because one of the things that I assure everyone that is not going to happen for a very, very, very long time is we're going to change this interface again. So what we've done is we've added a change log where people can see kind of the many updates that we're doing to the interface as you go. So let's assume that there was an issue. So there was something that what you thought was buggy, that was frustrating you, and you had reached out to the outreach team to provide feedback, which we always strongly encourage, especially while you have access to both versions, because we want to get the new version perfect before the old version is retired. So this is where you would find those details on this list here. Now, going back to the icon for help and support, you also have your user guide. So user guide is going to be written guidance on tasks within the system. Think of it as your written instruction manual. Tutorials are going to be videos. So videos tend to focus on accomplishing a single task, as well as discussing a single feature. So it's really like task or action oriented. Videos tend to be 5 minutes or less, allows you to do a refresher kind of course on a singular aspect, because we don't want anyone to have to watch, let's say, a 40-minute session just to learn one thing. Webinar schedule, this is going to take you directly to the registration page, so fastcase.com/webinars, to register for those additional CLE credit granting training sessions. And then, of course, more support is going to take you directly to fastcase.com/support, where you will find a page built with, or a subpage within fastcase.com that just compiles all the support options I've noted above in a single web page. So with that in mind, let's actually dig into conducting a search, now that we've talked about general layout. So the first place to start is when you are conducting a search is if you do not designate any type of filter, then the system will run your search query across all content types for all jurisdictions. So if I were to not click anything, if I did not have these blue filter boxes here below my search bar, I would find all legal documents, so books, statutes, so on and so forth, that contain arson and penalty. And you would get hundreds of thousands of results, which no one has time to sift through. So the place I always start my search is going to be narrowing or applying a narrowing filter. So right away, you always apply a narrowing filter, or you always narrow the universe within which you want to conduct a search query by clicking jurisdiction and sources to the right of the search bar. So here you see, and I'm really overemphasizing this, so you click it here, and then it's going to open up the jurisdiction and sources pop-out. So once the jurisdiction and sources pop-out is open, you always want to work from left to right. Now, right away, the first thing you will want to do is, if you want to, so you can see right away that I've already applied some checkboxes. So for instructive purposes, you can always get a clean slate by clicking this gray reset button in the top right of the jurisdiction and sources pop-out. So I always tell people, if the filters are not cooperating, or there's something quirky going on with your narrowing filters, just come up here, reset. You will get a clean slate, and then you want to simply work from left to right. So select your broader category of state or federal circuit, and then your content and sub-filter areas on the right. So if I wanted to do, let's say I wanted to do Oregon. Now you can also combine jurisdictions. So let's assume that I wanted to do Oregon and California. I would check the boxes on the left-hand side for Oregon and California. On the right-hand side, I would then select my content types, or I could click the down arrow beside any of these content types to open up sub areas. So things like individual courts, variations of codes, so on and so forth. So if I check the box for cases as a whole, you'll see that when I check this box on the right-hand side here for just the entire content category of cases within my broader category of California and Oregon on the left, it's going to automatically apply for me. So you see where I'm scrolling over here. It's going to automatically apply for me filters for all state courts in California and Oregon. So to reemphasize, that's why it's really important to always work from left to right. Now, just like I can combine jurisdictions on the left, I can also combine sources or sub areas on the right. So I could, select California and Oregon on the left. I could then do cases for California and Oregon, but I could also do statutes. I could also do court rules and the like. So we will uncheck court rules because we would be here all day if we went through all of those. And then of course, there's two other options. So once you've gotten all of your checkboxes perfected, there's two things you can do. Number one, I could make these checkboxes or these filtering areas my default. So let's say assume that you are only practicing in Florida and you only need to run searches in Florida, appellate, and state court. You can make this your default. So every time you log in, it's going to automatically apply these filters. So right away, there is a star here. So in the top left of my jurisdiction and sources pop out, to the left or to the right of the word search scope selector, there's a star. I click the star. That is going to save this group of filters as a favorite, which you can find under that orange circle icon in the top right of the main page. But more importantly, once I click the star, it fills in with orange, it saves as a favorite, and then a white box will open up and I can now save it as my default. So I click it to save it as my default. And then the last thing you want to do is you want to click save and continue in the top right. I likely overly emphasize that you need to click save and continue because when I first started at Fastcase, I would always come over here and click this X. And then I was like, why are my filters not applying? So just make sure you click save and continue. And then right away, one thing you should also check for is make sure that the areas that you just selected as a filter should now appear as blue boxes below the search bar. So I've got one blue box for each filtering area, one for Oregon cases, one for California cases, one for California statutes, and one for Oregon statutes. And then, of course, you just run your search. So I could just run a search for, let's just do an easy one for fraud.
Perfect.
All right. Would you like to take over to discuss the search results page? Or is there anything else you would like to add about the search bar, Erin?
I think that you've gotten most of it, but yes, I'll go ahead and tell you everybody about the results page we're on right now. So the first thing I want to point out is that your search box is still present at the top of the page. So this means that at any point you choose to, you can adjust, modify, add to, or remove content from your current search phrase. So for example, let's say that you searched for fraud, and now you've decided that you want to also search for intent. You can go ahead and search within the larger search of fraud for intent by just typing and intent, and then hit the orange search button to have your search results update live right here on the results page. So no need to click on search within, no need to go to a new page. You can modify your search right there on the results page. Towards the right-hand side of that search box, you'll see a downward pointing arrow. That downward pointing arrow opens up a little menu where you can see recent things that you've searched. You can save searches. So if this is a search phrase that you run all the time, you can save it by hitting that little star icon. And you can do something known as adding an alert. If you add an alert on a particular search, you'll be notified every time there's a new case on that particular topic via email. So if this is an area of law that I'm practicing in and I want to stay up to date on that issue, I can receive notifications automatically via email. And these notifications are included in Fastcase, and there's no limitation on how many you can set. So you can set as many as is useful for your jurisdiction and for your practice. To view those alerts once you've set them, either to remove them or to adjust them, we're going to take a look at one of the icons you'll see in the top right-hand corner of the page. So this is the icon that looks like a clock with an arrow around it. When you click on that icon, you'll see a couple of different tabs. The first one you'll see is your search history. So as you can see, the search we just ran for fraud and intent is the first result on this list. And this is something that's expanded from the last system. Previously, you could only see 10 searches, your 10 most recent. Now you can see 10,000. The next tab over is going to show you your document history. So you can see all of the documents that you've recently viewed and go back to them directly without having to remember the search phrase you used. The next tab over is the Bookmarks tab. So you can bookmark a document that you are interested in and have it available to go directly back to from this History, Bookmarks, and Alerts menu. And we will talk about how you set that bookmark once we're on the Documents view. The next tab over, that's Saved Searches. So we just discussed how you could save a search. And this allows you to rerun a search that you run frequently by just clicking on it once. The final tab is your Case Law Alerts. And this is where you'll see any alerts that you currently have set. You can edit things such as if they're sent as individual emails or if they're sent as one large email with all of your alerts on it, as well as you can adjust or address who is receiving those alerts. So a lot of information about your personal access tied to this History, Bookmarks, and Alerts menu. And just for privacy purposes, it is tied to your individual login in Fastcase, so you're the only person who has access to it. Okay, now we're ready to go back to the results page. Underneath the search box, you'll see two panels. The right-hand panel says Results at the top, and the left-hand panel says Current Sources at the top. So your results are in that right-hand panel, and to the right, you'll see what order your current results are in. So by default, your results are going to be in relevance order. However, they don't have to stay that way. As you can see, by clicking on relevance, you can change that sort order to date order, to alphabetical order, to number of times cited, whichever way is more convenient for you. Okay, just the last piece of information about that right-hand panel. If you scroll down, you'll see your results automatically load. So that means that you don't have to worry about, are you on page 1 or page 20 of the results? Just scroll down to see more of them load automatically. The left-hand panel on the other side is where you can filter your results. So the very first thing you'll see in the top left-hand corner is your current sources, what filters you have currently applied to your search results. So at the moment, we have the 4 jurisdictions that Ken set when we were looking at the jurisdiction and sources button. If we added a source that we're not interested in, you can get rid of that individual filter by clicking on the X right next to it. Underneath that, you'll have available sources. So these are libraries or filters that you can add to your current search in order to add different jurisdictions. So if we wanted to, in addition to California and Oregon, we could add Washington state cases, for example. Whatever combination of jurisdictions makes sense for your particular search. You can also filter those available sources by typing in the name of the state or federal jurisdiction that you have in mind. All right, underneath those primary and secondary filters, we have a couple of other filters to show off. The first one I want to talk about is the date range filter. So the date range filter allows you to restrict your results to a particular date span. The last 20 years, last 10 years, last year, or to a specific span that you enter into those search bubbles and then hit the check mark to apply it. So if you wanted to, you could search from 1982 to 1997, whatever range makes sense. Other filters down there in the bottom portion, you'll see a filter that's labeled briefs, pleadings, motions, and orders. This is optional add-on content to Fastcase. So most of you are accessing Fastcase as a retail subscriber or as a bar association member. And with that access, you get access to primary law, so cases, statutes, regulations, court rules, and all 50 states, all federal. However, we have added content from our sister product, Docket Alarm. Docket Alarm is designed to interface with state and federal dockets to pull the briefs, motions, pleadings, orders, and all of the other documents that are part of the docket. This is not included in your basic Fastcase access, but is something that you can add on if you choose to. So you can play around with it, see what kinds of briefs or motions or other things that have gone before the court or the judge you're interested in, things like that. But again, that is something that is an optional add-on, and if you have questions about that, let us know. The last filter that you'll see in that bottom left-hand corner is the suggested terms filter. This is a tool that you can use to get suggestions for terms to add to your search phrase so that you can focus it or narrow it very quickly. So for our current search for fraud and intent, it's showing us how our terms that we can use to filter the search down specifically. So if you're looking for an issue where they're talking about fraud intent as a matter of law, great. You can add that entire search phrase to your search without typing a single thing. Just hit the plus sign next to that particular phrase and your results will automatically update. Same thing, you can use this list to find terms or phrases that you're not interested in including in your results and hit the minus sign to exclude that from your results. So it's a really great way of removing content as well in case you're not interested in it. All right, Ken, let's pick a case and talk about the document view. All right, last little bit you'll hear from me, and then I'll turn it over to Ken. But now that we've selected a case, you might have noticed that on the left-hand side, you still have your results available. And this means that you can continue to scroll through or jump through your results without having to go back and forth between the results page and the document page. On the very far left-hand side of the page, right underneath where it says Fastcase, you'll see a couple of navigation buttons. These control which screens or which panels you see on the screen at any one time. So if Ken was to click off the results panel, you would see that we would just see the Documents panel. So we would just see the button that's in orange, and all of the other panels are not visible. If we wanted to see the Results panel again, he'd just click on Results, and now we can see the Results panel again. So again, very easy to make a document view or the results view visible when you want them, and to hide them when you want them. All right, Ken, you want to talk about the document?
Yes. Before I do, I'm going to answer a couple of questions I'm saying in the that are being repeated frequently in the questions box. The first one is people asking about folders and for searches and bookmarks. We do not have those at this time, but correct me if I'm wrong, we're getting a tagging system that's similar, Aaron, right, in the near future? Am I correct?
Yes, that's going to be coming out in one of our really close in time updates, probably sometime in the next month-ish.
Perfect. The other question I will address is going back to where we started. If you are a Windows XP user or older in terms of operating system, you will want to continue using 6 because XP and older users, unfortunately, it is not compatible with 7. When the original kind of operating system creator stopped maintaining it, unfortunately, they also stopped releasing all the various pieces to allow us to continue maximizing it for our system as well. Kind of following on that same thing, if you want to transition back to the old version, there is no way to make the old version your default. So you will have to transition back from 7 to 6 every time you log in, unfortunately. And then the last question being about content generally, we do offer unpublished cases, so things like orders coming directly from the court that have not been placed yet in a reporter, slip opinions, and the like. However, if you are dealing with something where it is not provided to us directly from our original source, i.e. the court, but is being kind of provided just to other commercial repositories like Lexis and Westlaw, which is oftentimes where you will see situations where you'll have just a Westlaw site or just a Lexis site. We may have those intermittently, but that is not guaranteed. So it really is about, did the unpublished case sort of get released generally by the court itself, or was it sort of retired over here and then just provided to or licensed to a commercial repository? The world of legal data is often confusing, and I wish it were not as such. Okay, so let's talk about, with any other questions you're saying that about what we talked about earlier, Aaron, that I'm missing?
Nope, I think we're ready to continue.
Perfect. So as Aaron was noting, we have opened up a document, and there's a number of things we can do with this document. So first off is, if you are like myself and I have terrible vision, that despite the largest screens that I can find, I often will need to read my case in full view. So as a reminder, if you want to read the text of your document, not just cases, in full view, you want to make sure you come over here to the left-hand side. So logo in the top left, you've got your view options. Anything that is in orange is a view that is cut on. So you see right away, the 2 buttons on this left-hand side that are in orange are Results and Document. So if I wanted to expand the text, I would simply cut off the Results view. Now, I also like to overemphasize these buttons, because if you are also like myself, you find search results pages in repositories generally to be busy. So as a result, I like to make sure just cut on whatever single view you may be interested in. Now, once we've opened up the full text of the case, you'll see a header. So I've got the text of the case, full screen view in the center. I've got the title at the top. Now above that, I've got what we call our document navigation bar. So our document navigation bar, let's kind of walk through what we can do with a single legal document. We can add additional search terms. So there is a search bar here underneath our bigger search bar at the top. There's a search bar here that inside of it says find in document. So if I wanted to add an additional keyword, I could simply, let's say that I wanted to add just corporation. I could type it, click on the magnifying glass. It's going to add it as a keyword. Now, the way that I know that I've added a keyword is below that Find in Document bar there, navigation bar there, I've got 3 different colored blocks. Now, the different colored blocks are going to be your version of search term highlighting. So because I was using a search query that involved 2 keywords, I get fraud placed in yellow, I get intent placed in, I don't know, peach, I suppose, and then corporation placed in, we'll just call it red for all intents and purposes. I'm not that great with the full color scheme. So if you wanted to jump to the location of these terms within the document, you simply click. So if I wanted to find fraud, I would click fraud. It's going to take me to the first location. If I click it again, it takes me to the second location. Now, you'll also notice that upon clicking fraud twice, I end up with a paragraph that has a line here. So you see this line here to the left of the paragraph. That is going to be what is known as my most relevant paragraph. So when you're entering your search query and it's going throughout, or pulling your search results, it's also going throughout individual legal documents and trying to pull what it is viewing as a paragraph that if you read it, it may prevent the need for you to have to read the entirety of all of the opinions. It is not a perfect system, but it does learn from you as you go. So the more searches you run, the more documents you enter, the more queries you are conducting, this does become tailored to the individual user. So it's kind of a fun feature as you're utilizing Fastcase. Now, the other way for any of these terms, same process, you just click on the term. Now, below these different colored blocks for the various terms, there's also, or I guess to the left of it, not below it, there's also this most relevant paragraph icon. You see, it looks like a sheet of paper with a highlighted portion. Aaron, we should put in feedback about making this more obvious. But anyway, we click on that, it takes me right back to that most relevant paragraph. So oftentimes when I am doing reading of cases, I will often come down here to the left of these sort of search term highlighted blocks, and I'll click on the most relevant paragraph. And I'll check it out first to see if I need to read the entirety of the case. Now, to the right of these icons in the navigation bar, I guess onto the right side of the document navigation bar above the text of the legal document, I've got other icons. The download icon, so download icon is going to be, it's going to look like a down arrow over a horizontal dash. I guess all dashes are horizontal, but you get where I'm going. So if I click the download icon, it's going to give me my download option. Now, it is important to note, because people often ask, that you can download as PDF and or Word, also known as docx format. The system will default to PDF format. You can open it up to move to docx format. I will also note that if you are a fan of PDF, the PDF format is searchable. So you can download a case in PDF and then use your search functions on whatever PDF reader you are using, or if you're just opening your PDF in a web browser, it will locate terms using Control and Find, or I believe, or Control and F and Command and F if you are a Mac user or an Apple user generally. So select your version, and then you have the option to do a single column or dual column formatting, and then you also have a checkbox here to have your search terms highlighted in the downloaded version. And then you simply click download. Now, whenever you download, your downloads are going to go to 2 places. The first place they're going to go is to the offline download location for your computer. So if, for example, I'm using Chrome, it's going to go in both the temporary downloads folder for my Chrome browser, and it's also going to go to the offline downloads folder for my personal computer, whatever type that may be. The second place that your downloads are going to go is going to be under the cloud icon. So the cloud icon in the top right, to the right of the bigger search bar, kind of the main search bar that follows from the main page, if you click that cloud icon, you'll see here where it says past export. So I click the cloud icon in the top right. There's a list of past exports. There is all of the things. There's the groupings that I've downloaded. There's also the list of the cases that I've downloaded. And these are going to be organized by date. So, and this also has, just like all of the other kind of history-like features in the system, it doesn't have an expiration date. So remember, cloud icon, top right, past exports is going to be the full list of things you have previously downloaded. Let's close this out. Now, the other thing that we can do, so if I, to the right of that, there is a, what I like to consider my sort of document sharing options. It looks like an icon, 3 dots connected by lines. So if I click this icon, it gives me a couple of options. Now, let's talk about add to export queue first. So a number of users have asked about the ability to, let's say I open up 7 cases and I don't want to download 7 files. You do have the ability to build an export queue. So what you want to do is I would want to open case 1, click on that share 3 dots connected by lines icon to the right of the document navigation bar, and then add to export queue. And then you could open up a different case, add it to export queue. Now you'll find your export queue by under that same cloud icon I just noted for past download jobs. So you click the cloud once more. The top, so right above where we just talked about past export, we have our current queue. Now this is going to be the 3 documents that I currently have the ability to download as a single PDF, Word document, or zip file. So I've got, let's say that I finalized my list here. I want to put all 3 of these cases into a single download. I simply come up here, top right of the cloud pop-out. I click export. Just like with downloading a single document, I get my download options. I could name this, so let's say cases about intentional fraud. And then I, just like before with a single document, I can click the download options, PDF or Word file. And then I also have additional options I can download as, of course, dual column or single column, but I can also download as a single PDF by clicking the radio button for single file, or I can do a zip file. Make sure you have a zip sort of extractor on your computer if you do this option, using the option for zip archive. If you do zip archive, like with most zip files, it's going to compress everything, but give you an individual file for each of the documents. So in this case, I'd have a zip file, but when I extracted it, I would have 3 individual files just in a single download. All right, let's close this out. Move over here, close this out once more. Now, below this, you also have to where you see, if we go below the document management sort of, or document navigation bar here, you'll notice that we have this icon here. So to the right of the case title, I've got an icon here that kind of looks like an old-fashioned bookmark, but also, you know, kind of one of those like traditional like page separators. Anyway, it is your bookmarks icon. So if I wanted to save this case as a favorite, I would click or I wanted to bookmark it, I would click the bookmark icon. The way that you know a case is saved as a bookmark is it will fill in with orange. So I could also just remove it like so. Now, right below the bookmark, you also have what we call hide toolbar here. So this would allow you, if you wanted to just make this even kind of more vertically expansive on your screen, you could hide the toolbar as well. Now, the other thing to note when we're talking about sort of, I guess, full screen view of a document, or people often will ask, how do I make my font larger? There's not a built-in feature. So to make your font sort of quote unquote larger, you would simply use the new, I guess, built-in interface features, which is going to make your font larger just by zooming in. So if you notice, as I'm zooming in here, my font is getting bigger and bigger. So I just let people know that is one of the kind of less discussed benefits of the new system, is that it is designed to be compatible not just with PCs, but also with iPads, with mobile devices, and so on and so forth. I also emphasize this because while we are currently rebuilding our mobile app, using the platform as a mobile version is a nice workaround on that front. Now, Aaron, the last icon, unless you correct me, I feel like I was about to talk about is going to be authority check, but I feel like you have a better case in your mind and you would probably want to do this. So what do you think?
Well, I'm happy to do authority check, but before we do, I just want to remind everybody about the bookmark ribbon over here on the top right, because we mentioned bookmarks earlier. I just want to make sure everybody got a chance to see that bookmark ribbon. That's what you would use to bookmark a particular document. Okay, now that we talked about that, let's talk about authority check. For this one, let's use a classic, Ken, if you wouldn't mind, Plessy.
Perfect. Okay. Wonderful. This is a great time to also emphasize everyone that type ahead does work, even if you're trading it out from the search results page. So I don't know. I get excited about this stuff. So let's go over to Plessy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
clear out the term. Okay.
of course, Plessy is a negative case, and we'll take a look at the citator report for it in just a second. But regardless of which case you're on, above the text of the case on the left, you'll see an icon shaped like a flag. Yes, that flag is going to be red if the case has a negative interpretation, and black and white if the case does not have a negative interpretation. You can also click on the button to the left of it that has the word auth on it, and that will take you to the same document. So let's go ahead and open the report for Plessy. So this is the authority check report in Fastcase, and the first thing you'll see at the very top is, of course, the case that you're currently on. Underneath that, you'll see the filters. So if you only want to see results from a particular jurisdiction, you can filter your authority check report by just typing in or clicking on the jurisdiction that you're interested in. Once you've entered that, it'll automatically filter those results and show you only the ones from that jurisdiction. To the right of that filters panel, you'll see the sort by panel, and that allows you to sort your authority check results by the default, which is most recent, or by the most cited citation. So if you have a case that has cited to your case that's been cited a lot, it will end up at the top of the results. Speaking of the results themselves, any cases that show under the red negative treatment panel are cases that have been flagged for treating your case in a negative manner. So these are the ones that are telling us that the case has a negative treatment, that it's overruled, remanded, superseded by statute, criticized, questioned, or is otherwise not great law to cite to. Underneath that, you'll see the gray citations panel, and that's the panel that you would use to check and see how the case has been treated in the later case law generally. So you would be able to see if a particular case has been cited to, what the most recent citation is, etc. Now, this panel updates super quickly. So if your case was overturned yesterday, you could know about it in the authority check report today. So fast updating for this panel. And if you ever want to download it, up at the top where it says authority check, just to the right of that, you'll see the download arrow, and you can click on that and get just the authority check report for that particular case. All right, so now we've been talking about the document, how you can search in Fastcase, but searching isn't the only way that you can get to documents. The other major way that you can get to documents is to use browse mode. Ken, if you would. So the browse mode button is going to be the blue one next to the search bar. And once you've clicked on it, you'll see your jurisdiction at the top of the page. So since Ken is driving, we're seeing his Oregon federal content. However, you can change your jurisdiction anytime you choose to using the Change Jurisdiction by Typing button on the left. So if we needed a different jurisdiction, we could select it from that dropdown. On the screen itself, on the left side, you'll see primary material, and on the right side, you'll see secondary content. Most subscriptions are for primary material, and you'll see cases, statutes, regulations, etc. Next to each of these libraries, you'll see a couple of small icons. If a library has a magnifying glass next to it, that's a library that you can search. And if you click on that magnifying glass, it will add that as your jurisdiction. If a library has 3 parallel lines next to it, that's a library that you can see from the index or table of contents. Any library that has an index is also going to be a library where you can see the currency. That's the I button that you see there for information. So you can see the last time that particular library was updated and when the last time was that we checked for new updates. So this particular library was updated this morning. So very, very up to date. All right, so let's go ahead and take one of the statutes and just see what it looks like to see it from table of contents. So now you can see the different editions, and once you've clicked on a particular edition, you can open that topic, that title, down to a particular division, part, and then to a specific section if you have one in mind. Ken, go ahead and grab any section for me. So now that we have the section open, you can see the text of the statute on the right, and on the left-hand side of the screen, you still have your outline available. So this is the way I recommend looking at statutes if you are likely to look at multiple statutes. The easiest way to get to them is to just use the outline to jump around. On the right-hand side, we still have all of the options we saw for the case law example a moment ago, with one change. Instead of having a flag for the authority check report, we now have a capital A for annotations. And if we click on that A, we'll see if there's any case law citing to this particular section. And there is, hooray. So it's just that easy to see the annotations for a particular statute section. And just like we saw for the authority check report, these results can be filtered and resorted any way you need them to. Okay, so that's how you would use the browse or outline mode in Fastcase. But we're going to pop back to the browse mode for just a second to talk about secondary content for just a moment. Now, most secondary content in Fastcase is an optional add-on. So if you like a particular book, you can add that particular book to your subscription. And if you have questions about that, just let us know. But there are two libraries that you get for free in Fastcase 7 that are secondary content. The first one I want to mention is the JurisPro Expert Witness Database. So using the JurisPro Expert Witness Database, you can get basic information about expert witnesses who have testified in various courts. So Ken is going to go ahead and click on that and search for education for me, just so that you can see what one of the profiles would look like. So we'll grab a particular witness. And as you can see the basic information about that witness, what their education and background is, basic contact information, and any areas that they specialize in or subspecialties that they might have. The second database that's available through Fastcase for free is LexBlog. LexBlog is a curated database of legal blogs. So these are short articles written by leading practitioners, professors, and other experts in their field. And this is a really great resource because there's a number of issues that are either so cutting edge or so focused that there's not a lot of journal activity or journal information on them yet. However, legal blogs come out a lot faster, so you can get some of that commentary right away without having to wait for a journal to catch up. So as Ken just showed you, there's some really, really great content on COVID-19. I personally am very fond of the endangered animals ones or an endangered species one, but there's all kinds of very niche topics that you can get detailed information about using LexBlog. Okay. So that's just the basics about secondary content and about how to use the browse mode. Ken, is there anything that we haven't covered question-wise?
Let's see. Let me go through here. People asking about how would you answer? I've got a couple people asking about if they access through the Bar Association, can they use the mobile app? What is your response?
So we do have a mobile app. It is available for iPhone and Android, but it's a little bit old at the moment. We're getting ready to do a big update for it. So personally, I recommend just using the browse mode on your mobile device or the browser version, the one that we're currently logged into on a main computer on your mobile device until we finish that update. But that's just my recommendation.
Yeah, I would reemphasize that as well. I think that was one of the nice kind of less obvious changes to the platform with the new kind of update to 7 is that Erin knows this because she often fights me on whether Android or Apple is better. I'm team Apple, but I oftentimes will do copious amounts of research on my iPhone or an iPad Pro, so I can attest that it does work quite quickly. The user asking about where to find previous searches, of course, I'm happy to point that out again. So your saved searches and documents, i.e. your bookmarks, and your alerts are all going to be found in the top right under the clock icon. So you want to click, so top right, you see where I'm hovering, you click the clock icon. And then as Erin noted earlier, 5 tabs will open up. You can find your previous searches under the tab to the far left, which is going to be your search history. And then, of course, the other tabs are labeled in a sort of explainable way. A person asking, oh, Erin, how did we not talk about printing? We almost forgot about printing. Yes, let me reopen it. So yes, so we did just add, so let's open up Plessy once more. So we did just add what we call native printing. So you can really, the old-fashioned way to print was in Fastcase 7 was you had to download the documents, you had to open the documents, and then you had to download using kind of our manual printing functions. Now in this system, you can just print using what we call, the fancy wording is native print commands, which is just code for you print using whatever variation of Control and P, file and print. If you're a Mac or an iPad Pro or a Mac user, you would use Command and P, so on and so forth. So I would just do like so, and then I get my various print options. So in this case, I'm on Firefox on a PC right now. I just click Control and P. I will tell people if you are, as you are using the print commands, if you find the text to be a little small, number one, consider adjusting your own kind of personal print preferences, since we can't ultimately troubleshoot all of those since there's so many options for computers, operating systems, and browsers. I just learned that there's 81 versions of Firefox currently, like who knew? The other thing to consider is if you want the font to be by default larger, if you just don't want to deal with, I guess, print preferences, you would then just want to go the old way of downloading first, opening, and then printing, because that guarantees that the typeface will be 13. So, Erin, anything you want to add?
I think that we've got most of it. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that we do update and we do add content on a routine basis. In addition to the changelog, which we showed earlier in today's session, you can also see some of the latest announcements from Fastcase by looking at our blog. So Ken's going to show you where that's located, but that's where we make announcements for things like new books, new libraries, new content that becomes a part of Fastcase. And you'll also see some tips from Fastcase there too. So it's a great place to do a quick check and see if there's anything new that you're interested in.
Perfect. Okay, so we are right at the end of the hour. I'm going to add a couple of other things. Number one, you do have, Erin and I work on a team of individuals who do provide you with live support. So live technical and research support, so help with queries if you can't locate a case or a document, generally so on and so forth, is available for you Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 9 p.m. Eastern. Erin, do you know the phone? I'm sure you have the phone number memorized. Can you tell it to the people in the room?
866-773-2782. Again, that's 866-773-2782. You can also email us. Our email address is support, that's SUPPORT, @fastcase.com.
And then my other favorite type of support, and the one I think is depending on if we're doing research, is somewhat a little more efficient, is you have a live chat option. So at the bottom right of your screen, and any screen, so the main page or your search results page, there is a tab here, bottom right. We've made it somewhat less conspicuous because users in the older version found it to be too large. So you click the chat tab here, bottom right, click it. It's then going to open up a pop-up that's going to ask us various information, basic information, first name, last name, email address if follow-up is needed. We will not store it for marketing purposes. And then a subject, so your subject might be, I need to locate, 5 US 141, so on and so forth. I need help with contract law in Georgia. Does not have to be, you can write as much or as little as you want. You can also just write help, and we are here. You will get connected during those live hours just as seamlessly as you will via phone. I encourage people, live chat support If you are doing things like queries, because it is much easier to copy and paste a search query, or even a link to search results in a chat box than it is to attempt to dictate it, as I admittedly often do incorrectly at times with users over the phone. So I always like to point out that the chat option is available. And we can also help more people more frequently, because, one phone call at a time, or I don't know, Erin, I think you can do what, like 8 chats at a time, something of that nature. I'm trying to get on that level. Otherwise, Erin, is there any other remaining questions? Otherwise, I would say we call it quits.
I think we've got them all, but I'd like to thank everybody for joining us for today's session. I do encourage you to reach out if you have any questions. Again, 866-773-2782, support@fastcase.com, or the chat function. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thanks again. Have a great day.